Hello there and welcome to a brand new lesson. This is Half Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. In this lesson, we are looking at the change of subject of a formula and we are focusing on squares and square root. Here are the lesson objectives. Without much ado, let's quickly look into it. So if you have been following this lesson so far, you realize that all the change of subject we have done are just applying our inverse operations. When it comes to square and then square roots, you see, if the variable is squared, just use the square root, then vice versa. So if it is square root, you also use the square. Take note, anytime you find the square root of any term, that is a positive term, the answer are always 2. And that is a positive or negative of the answer. Now, to undo a square, you always make sure that you move all the terms attached to that square or square root before you try your squaring or square rooting. That is to follow a sequential order. Let's take some examples and see how we are going to apply these. So for our very first question here, it says, make R the subject of A equals pi r squared. Now, I do hope you know which formula this is. This is the area of a circle. So let's say you have the area, you have pi, and you don't know the radius. That is, you want to make R the subject. How do we go about it? So you have A being equal to, we have our pi and then R squared. So you make sure you move all the terms associated to the R, one after the other. First of all, we can take away this pi. So how do we take away the pi? We do that by dividing both sides by what? The pi. So let's divide the left-hand side. Let's divide the right-hand side by the pi and also divide the left-hand side also by the pi. And by so doing, the pi divides pi once. And we have A over pi. So our A over pi then equals R squared. Now the squared, the term containing the squared or the term with the squared has been separated. Then how do we make the R the subject? So with R squared being equal to A over pi, what we do is we take the square root. So the only way we can take away this squared is by what? Finding the square root. And with the square root, this 2 here cancels out this 2. And we have R being equal to the square root of A over pi. That becomes the radius. In making R the subject, R is simply what? The square root of A over pi. Very, very simple. So in this second example, we actually have a square root. We have to make x the subject of y equals the square root of x plus 5. How do we go about it? So y equals the square root of x plus 5. With this, there is no other term apart from the square root. So the first thing you need to do is to undo the square root because x is directly trapped under the root all together with the 5. And the inverse operation of the square root of us. And the inverse operation of the square root, as I have said, is what? The squared. So squaring both sides, we are going to get our y squared equals the square root of x plus 5 all squared. So with that, the square root is undone by the squared. So in essence, we have y squared being equal to what we have left after the square root has been removed. That is an x plus 5. So it is x we want to make the subject. Hence, we are going to subtract 5 from both sides. So on the left-hand side, we have y squared minus 5 being equal to x plus 5 minus 5. So that we still have our y squared minus 5, which is then equal to an x. And with that, we have been able to make x to stand on its own. So our x is equal to y squared minus 5. Very, very simple. That is our final answer. Now, there is one mistake that students most often make. And let's look at that. When you have an example such as c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. If we are asked to make c the subject, what are we going to do? We would find the square root of both sides. So that is the square root of c squared, and also find the square root of the sum of the squares we have here. Now, the mistake most often is on the evaluation of this. Take note, finding the square root of this is not going to be a plus b, claiming that your square root cancels out both squares. No. And finding the square root of a squared plus b squared is also not equal to the square root of a squared plus the square root of b squared. They are not the same. So you take note and you avoid this kind of mistakes. Hence, our c would be equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared with no further simplification. That is from this end, with no further simplification. Why? Because this square root can easily take the square, but not in this case. So I'll end this lesson here. And as usual, I'll leave you with some exercises so you try to test your understanding. So here are just 6 questions, of which we have square and then square roots, that they are supposed to make these variables indicated here the subject. I do hope you'll be able to do it. Let's have beyond numbers where we learn maths the easy way. See you in our next lesson. If there's any issue of concern, you can always let me know at the comment section. If this is your first time on this channel and you do think this channel will be of help to you, you can subscribe if you so do wish, so that anytime I release a video, you'll be notified as well. See you in our next lesson, and bye for now. Stay safe.